Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar. We'll have a look at some of the data from the big snowfall event we saw down in the southeast last night. We saw many areas seeing upwards of 5 to 10 centimetres, even more in some areas for that area of small low pressure that did push in. So again, it was quite a localised system, but it did drop a lot of snow in a short period of time, especially into very high dense areas, including central London. We'll have a look at the weather warnings, as we still have a lot of winteriness around this week with a lot of snow and ice, with freezing cold temperatures likely to be sustained all the way to the weekend. But it's looking highly likely we do see a breakdown in those colder conditions around the weekend into early next week, with much milder southwesterlies coming in for a time. So have a look at the UKV, look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, which still is pretty much all cold, but we're going to see the hints of slightly milder conditions around day 5 towards the weekend coming in from the southwest. We'll then have a look at the longer range, look at the GFS, GEM, ECMWF and the ensembles, as yes, it is turning milder this weekend. It's breaking the sort of 2-week cold spell we have had. The CET is 2 degrees right now, and it's only going to drop even more. That's 2 degrees below average. That's our average sort of temperature. So yeah, really cold month so far. It's going to be moderated by this slightly milder spell, but as we'll see, as I said, in the longer range, we could see the cold air return from around the 20th to the 25th, so potentially in time for Christmas. The blocking patterns are not going anywhere, but they're positioning themselves slightly differently over the course of the next week or so, which means southwesterlies are more favoured. It does mean we could pull in much colder air for Christmas, and could we see a white Christmas? The potential is there. The blocking patterns are there, and the cold air to our north is quite strong at the moment. So we'll have to see what the longer range models are showing today. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. So do start on the live radar. You can see it's actually a pretty dry day at the moment as I'm recording this around 1 PM. We've got quite a slack flow out there, so not particularly strong winds. The ice bar is quite spread out, and that means that showers are not developing as much and are not coming as far inland. Again, a few specks of snow through northern England. That's the remnants of the system that developed in southeast England, and there's just a lot of thicker cloud and fog around from all of that. But again, that snow in the southeast did disintegrate really rapidly as it moved inland, but it dropped a lot of snow over a short space of time. If you do look at the 2-metre temperatures at the moment, you'll be able to see it is a cold day, a bitterly cold day really. Temperatures widely around that freezing mark, maybe 1 or 2 degrees across coastal areas down in the southwest, parts of East Anglia, but for central areas, especially down into the London area, we've got quite strong snow cover there. It is very, very cold, and you can even see some pinks across eastern Scotland, so temperatures still into the minus single digits during the middle of the day. So it is bitterly cold, and that's going to just continue this week. The cold is going nowhere until at least Saturday, Sunday time. Now, if you have a look at the past 24-hour precipitation, you'll be able to see that we did see significant snow last night. And again, you can see mainly in this southeast corridor. Again, major snow events, but not particularly widespread. Of course, it's, on Twitter and places like that, it's made out to be quite widespread just because of the population density here. It's impacting a lot of people, but in terms of actual geographic area, it's not particularly significant at all. If this fell over sort of northeast coast, where it's a little bit more sparsely populated, or over some of the higher ground in northern England, we wouldn't have been saying too much about it. But it's because we fell over such populated areas and sort of into the urban heat island of London, we saw significant snow. I'm sure many of you have seen some really amazing images of snow in central London in front of all the iconic marks. In front of all the iconic landmarks, and again you can see where the heaviest snow fell, just in sort of Kent towards Maidstone area, and again sort of towards North London here into Hertfordshire. We saw sort of 10 to 20 centimetres drop in these areas. Again, some coastal areas just missed out, and again you can see some areas just the southwest of London saw literally nothing, and some areas about 20 miles away saw 10 centimetres. So a very localised system. We only saw a yellow warning issued for it in the end. I was extremely surprised not to see an amber warning. I was here ready, refreshing the warnings through sort of yesterday evening, waiting for that amber warning to be issued, and it never came. I was extremely surprised, as this is significant snow that did fall. Yes, it's quite localised, but very highly densely populated, and generally it's over sort of quite a decently large area that saw sort of moderate snowfall amounts, sort of 5 centimetres or so. Anywhere where we got these darker blues here, from Cambridge all the way down to Brighton. So that is quite a large area that saw sort of moderate amount of snow, sort of yellow warning. But this area here that we saw the snow band pivot, extremely surprised not to see an amber warning issued there. Do think it's a little bit disappointing from the Met officers. I've seen a lot of images of cars getting stuck, even on the M25, one of the busiest motorways in the country, where you'd expect the gritters to be out. Didn't see a lot at all in terms of sort of clear passage. It was very snowed over and very, very dangerous. So extremely surprised not seeing amber warning for 10 centimetres. That's sort of the level I'd say is definitely amber warning. So 10 to 20 centimetres amber warning, 20 centimetres plus, maybe 30 centimetres. Then sort of think about a red warning. But anywhere up to around 5 centimetres is probably yellow warning. But we evidently saw that pivoting, and I'm very surprised the Met Office did issue a sort of snap warning for that. But elsewhere, we saw a few snow showers around, and we still saw that quite heavy snow across parts of Gloucestershire into southwest England as well yesterday. Again, quite a surprise snowfall event. Again, very localised. So again, yeah, you can see very, very big, significant snow event in the far southeast, but again, not major in terms of actual geographic area. Most of the country actually saw very little snowfall yesterday at all. So if you go over the weather warnings now, you'll be able to see we do have a yellow ice warning in force, and that's because the lying snow and icy patches will melt a bit today, and then will refreeze overnight. Of course, yes, it's around freezing in the day, but with solar radiation coming in, it doesn't generally melt conditions. I think you have to be below about minus 19 degrees, the air temperature, to refreeze snow that is melting because of solar radiation. So generally anywhere apart from sort of the Arctic will see snow melt whenever the sun does get out. So we are seeing snow melt today, even in the areas where those temperatures are holding below freezing. Quite a slow thaw, but when it does refreeze tonight, it could produce some very icy conditions even on roads. Hopefully the main motorways and main systems are much clearer with the gritters out today, but still a lot of minor roads probably will be very dangerous travelling conditions even into tomorrow. Again, you can see high likelihood lower end of the impact matrix, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was issued as an amber, but you know, only seeing a yellow warning here. But yeah, could be some more icy issues. No other really warnings today except this snow warning across the far northern Isles of Scotland, again from overnight tonight into tomorrow, or earlier tonight into midnight tonight, and you can see again 2 to 5 centimetres possible, maybe 10 to 20 centimetres in some places. Again, high impact, low likelihood. Got more warnings pushing in tomorrow with the snow warning and ice warning across parts of Scotland and northeast England, as the flow does come a little bit more, does come a bit stronger from the north and the northeast, and it means snow showers will pack in once again, and that continues into Wednesday and Thursday. But I'm sure we'll see other warnings, as there is potential for some snow in the far southwest through Tuesday and Wednesday, potentially with weather fronts trying to bump in. So again, there could be snow warnings for that, and we'll see that in the UKV in a minute. But we've got these yellow snow and ice warning from tonight until midday on Thursday. Again, wintry showers, maybe 15 to 20 centimetres over higher ground. Again, not too unusual really for the higher ground of Scotland. Again, if that fell over low-lying areas, I'm sure we'd see a widespread amber warning. But over sparsely populated higher hills and mountains, 15 to 20 centimetres is not too unusual really, but still significant snow could fall in some areas. So do now go over to the UKV and see what that is showing over the course of the next 5 days. And you can see generally quite dry at the moment. Not a lot of precipitation around at all. A few snow showers maybe inland over the course of this afternoon through central areas with the remnants of that low pressure system. But as we head through tonight into tomorrow, look what happens in the southwest and parts of Southern Ireland. Weather fronts start to approach and are very slow moving as they just get blocked out by the cold air. But where they collide across Southern Ireland, southwest England, maybe into parts of central southern England, we could see heavy snowfall from Tuesday night into Wednesday there. Again, no warning issued at this stage because I'm sure there's a lot of uncertainty in the northern and southern extent of it. But heavy snowfall could be seen, and again, could be very slow moving and stationary as it does. Again, it is frontal, so again, it is all dependent on the positioning of the low pressure system, so it's very hard to predict. Sort of 10-20 miles difference in the centre of the low, which on the grand scheme is not particularly big, but for snow in southern England, it is a very big difference. That's between snow, pushing into central southern England or just staying at the coast. But again, could be some snow there, and then eventually the big snow showers push in from the north as that wind strengthens again through Tuesday and Wednesday, and we see plenty of wintry showers push in. Could see some small systems develop in the flow. You can see some increased shower activity there at times, maybe pushing further inland. So areas of northern England, maybe the Midlands, Northern Ireland, could see some snow as well. But again, we'll have to wait nearer the time to see if any of that develops. Remember that system in the southeast only really popped up sort of 48 to 72 hours before, and again, only a few of the models were going for it, and we only really got the consistency about 24 hours before the event. So could see something like that, but again, we'll have to see. Through Thursday evening into Friday, you see the wind switches more to a westerly. Still snow pushing in, and still plenty of snow showers, but look at the upper air temperatures starting to warm up, maybe -2 to -4 degrees at 850 HPA, pushing into parts of the Republic of Ireland. Again, if we have a look at the dew points, starting to rise above freezing in the far west, so a sign of Atlantic air starting to push back in, and I'm sure it'll be into all areas by Sunday and Monday. And again, we'll be bringing a lot of rain with it as well. So many areas have been dry over the period of this cold spell. Yes, we've seen plenty of snow. Not as much snow as probably some have hoped. It's been quite localised, and we have seen significant snow in a few places, but no major widespread snow really. But big rain will be coming next week. I know a lot of people will be like, where does this precipitation be where we've had the cold air? So if you do have a look at the 2 metre temperatures, you can see this afternoon it's hardly getting above freezing in many areas. Widely sort of freezing 1 degree, sort of a slither of maybe 3 or 4 degrees across East Anglia, but it is still bitterly cold. And across Scotland, look at that, widely sort of -6 to -8 at 3 p.m, extremely cold. Overnight tonight, those temperatures could drop away, very cold once again. See a big refreeze in southeast England, could see -5 widely in rural areas, maybe -6 and below that, so you can even rule out maybe a -10 with snow cover. And into tomorrow afternoon again, hardly getting above freezing, 1 or 2 degrees, bitterly cold. And through Tuesday evening once again, freezing cold. Could see that snow across southwest England, widely freezing all the way to the coast, so it could be some widespread snow there through the southwest. And then again through Wednesday afternoon, widely towards the freezing mark, and again into Thursday, freezing cold, hardly getting above sort of 1 or 2 degrees. Eventually by Friday, look at that, bitterly cold night once again. It's probably the last bitterly cold widespread night, Thursday into Friday. See, by Friday in the day, it's still hovering around freezing, but look, overnight Friday, still freezing cold in many areas in the east and central and southern areas, but look in the west, it is starting to turn milder, and that is the sign. That is the signs of things to come as we head into early next week. So if you do now have a look at the GFS and see what that is showing over the course of the next few weeks, still got blocking over towards Greenland at the moment. Slack flow at the moment, that's why we're not seeing too many showers around, but it is bitterly cold. Low pressure sliding in from the south at the moment, that could give us that snow in the far southwest, and you can see a resurgence of the northeasterly winds through Wednesday and Thursday as well. Bitterly cold air coming in, but you see the blocking degrades towards Greenland, and it opens up the Atlantic, and southwesterly winds come in. And by Saturday, Sunday, we're much milder and unsettled. You can see, though, blocking tries to push back in. We've still got this higher pressure signal, but it doesn't fully come off. And by next Wednesday, we are still on a westerly flow. But if you look to our north, the low pressure systems are not all pushed together like a typical pest from the west pattern. They're very much all still very disorganised, with a lot of high pressure blocking nudging it around, and that's what we start to see as we head towards the Christmas period. As we head towards the 24th and the 25th, northerly winds come in, cold air mass pushes in, and again, that doesn't look bitterly cold, but the air to our north is very cold because we've got this cold pattern at the moment. So the North Atlantic, Iceland, Greenland, Scandinavia are all very cold at the moment, so any air pushing from the north is going to be really cold, and eventually we see that northerly wind push in and another low pressure system sliding off the Atlantic into that cold air. We could see a major snow event potentially with that before we wrap round that low drops to our south, higher pressure up towards Greenland, and for the 28th of December, bitterly cold easterly winds, that high pressure moving towards Scandinavia, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw sort of a very cold easterly wind there. See, -15 isotherm is out towards Eastern Europe. That could start to nudge our way and could set us up for another very cold spell towards the end of the month and start of January. Again, this is only one run, but we are seeing hints of this from all the models and from repeated GFS operational runs, all doing it in a different way, so it is hints at this stage. But the potential is there for potentially winteriness and generally colder conditions to return around the Christmas period to New Year period as well. Maybe in time for Christmas, maybe beyond that, or maybe not at all. But definitely signs of something happening here. If we now have a look at the GM and compare that, again, slack flow at the moment. Low pressure running up from the south, bitterly cold northerly winds, could see little embedded lows within that, and that could mean enhanced snowfall through Wednesday to Friday, for eventually low pressure runs in off the Atlantic, goes very mild, temporarily, and at day 10, a little bit more organised, higher pressure to our north, low pressure to our north, southwesterly winds, but look at all that cold air to our north. Again, any blocking that builds in, that would very quickly displace that. Again, you can see the blocking is over the North Pole, but just shifted to the other side, which means that doesn't really impact the UK all too much. And if you actually look at North America is very cold at this stage. So again, got to see what happens, but the blocking doesn't look like it's going anywhere in terms of the Northern Hemisphere blocking. But in terms of the North Atlantic Oscillation, which is the blocking in the Atlantic Ocean towards Iceland, that could be waning over the course of the next week. But could it return for the Christmas period? We'll have to see. GEM suggesting not, still got the Arctic blocking, but not the North Atlantic blocking. So again, we'll have to see what happens with that. If you look at the ECMWF and see how that does compare, again, a very slack flow at the moment, bitterly cold chart here, and again, low pressure running in from the south, trying to get that snow to the southwest, before eventually we go into a very cold northerly wind, but eventually low pressure runs up from the Atlantic, still got that blocking towards Greenland. Again, if this low pressure was shifted slightly further eastwards, we would be pulling in a northerly wind once again. But eventually, at day 10, still got major blocking. If you look at the Northern Hemisphere, still major blocking towards northern Canada and the Arctic, but all that cold air is flooding towards Greenland and out into the North Atlantic, and the UK is on the mild side of the block. Again, this looks like a very mild chart, but actually look at the overall synoptics of the Northern Hemisphere. We're so close to it going very cold once again. So yes, Atlantic push coming in this weekend. Definitely turning much milder and a lot of rain around. Temperatures probably into the high single digits. Again, it won't be very mild just because the ground temperatures are still very cold. That will moderate it quite a bit, at least for a couple of days. So as long as we don't push in sort of a 10-degree isotherm, we will probably stay around average, maybe below average in terms of surface conditions. But then as we head into around sort of a week's time, sort of week to 10 days time, towards the middle of next week, then we could see colder air start to come back in. It could be one of these things where by the time we get to the end of this colder spell into the milder air towards the weekend, we could see the next cold spell on the horizon or within the sort of reliable model time frame. But again, that is something we need to keep an eye on. No sort of concrete data at this stage, just the hints from the models that the blocking is going nowhere and it could start to pull northerly or easterly winds back in for the end of the month or even in time for Christmas. So if you do now have a look at the Ensemble members, you can see the next 6 or 7 days from the GFS Ensemble members are going to be cold. Around the -5 isotherm pretty consistently, potentially even getting slightly colder later this week. So again, really cold conditions. As we're towards the weekend, big spike in upper air temperatures, again towards maybe 5 degrees at 850 HPA, so 5 degrees above average, sort of a 10-degree swing, and a lot of precipitation, so going to be turning a lot more unsettled and milder generally, that is. But again, surface conditions will be moderated. I wouldn't suspect it'd get much above sort of 5 to 7 degrees in many areas. Then we see the upper air temperatures really get uncertain. You can see generally we're around average, maybe slightly below average. Quite a few ensemble members going well above average. The operation run staying well above average for a few days before plunging colder than average for Christmas. And you can see a sort of 50-50 split between below average and above average, with still quite a few going very cold towards the end of the month. Precipitation is still high, so low pressure still is quite involved. So if we didn't see any cold air dig in, it could be quite snowy. But again, we'll have to see what happens with that. Again, if we have a look at the 2 metre dew points, you can see well below freezing in terms of dew points for the next sort of 6 or 7 days towards the 18th, and then well above average before actually cooling down once again. So we get indications potentially of colder air masses. Anything from the Arctic or the east, that will be below freezing dew points. So you can see again a 50-50 split with quite a few ensemble members producing below freezing dew points, which could indicate colder air returning. And if we just have a look at the 2 metre temperatures, around freezing for the next sort of 5 to 6 days, and then as I said, towards the weekend, maybe as high as 8 or 9, but I wouldn't suspect it got much above that just because of the cold surface conditions, and then generally we trend back towards sort of 5 or 6 degrees, so average, but again, that's including very cold runs and very mild runs. Again, we'll have to see what happens with that. If you do just finish by having a look at the ECMWF ensemble members, the midnight run, again very cold for the next 6 or 7 days, spiking to around 5 degrees at average THPA for a day or two with high precipitation, then dropping generally back towards average. Big uncertainty there, with quite a few ensemble members around the 22nd, 23rd going very cold, and some staying very cold through the Christmas period, others staying milder or around average. So we will have to see what happens. It does look generally unsettled though, but again, those are probably the milder runs, and some of the colder runs are probably quite unsettled as well with a lot of snow around. So again, we'll have to see exactly what happens. And again, if we compare the 2 metre temperatures, you can see generally very cold, of course, the next 5 or 6 days, hardly getting above freezing, and then towards the weekend into early next week could get towards sort of that 8 to 10 degree mark. Again, I'd be very sceptical with these simply because the surface conditions will moderate it. We'll have to wait for the shorter range models, including the UKV, of course, but then beyond that, generally back towards sort of 5 or 6 degrees, so generally around average. So even if we did see sort of a milder last sort of 10 days of December, or a mild couple of days, and then average last sort of week to December, we will still have a very cold month, at least a degree probably below average. So December looks highly likely to be a colder than average month, and potentially quite significantly colder than average. So yeah, we'll have to see exactly what happens. But for the time being, say very cold, milder towards the weekend and early next week, and then it could turn very cold once again. The blocking's still there. We'll just have to see what the models do with that blocking and whether we do pull in a northerly or easterly wind once again in time for Christmas. So we'll have to see what happens. So anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you stay safe out there. The big issue of the next sort of 24 hours will be ice, especially in the southeast with the snowfall that we've got. Again, all of that melt that we'll see today, all the thaw will refreeze this evening, so it will be very icy tomorrow, an ice rink in many areas, and of course widely as well there'll be issues with frost and generally icy conditions as well, so please do take care. As I said, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.